Welcome everybody. Another Making Hay with JRA. It is Thursday, every Tuesday and Thursday from 12 to 1 Eastern Time. We bring you Making Hay with JRA, the only consistent junk removal show on YouTube where we answer any questions you have and cover a relevant topic of the day. Today we are mainly going to be discussing some questions that came in from a viewer. Luke Harris in right outside of Missouri had north of Missouri or north of St. Louis has several questions that we're going to cover throughout the day. If you guys have any questions at all, please submit them on either YouTube or Facebook. If you are watching us on YouTube, please subscribe below. That way you get notifications every time we do go live here with JRA. So one of the questions that Luke has, and it's something that comes up quite often, is you encounter a really large job. It's what everybody wants, but all of a sudden when you get your hands around a really, really large job, it's how the heck do you handle this thing? How do you quote it? How do you handle billing? How do you do this job without missing out on other work? All of that is relevant questions, and it's stuff that a lot of times people get tripped up on. So the very first thing that happens when you encounter your first large job, and what I mean by a large job is going to be a job that's probably really, some people might qualify a large job as being 3 or 4 loads, and that I would put that as a moderate job. What do you think, Aaron? Is that a moderate job or a large job?
Moderate.
Yeah, so that's going to be a moderate job. A large job is going to be like 8, 10 truckloads plus. So from time to time, you're going to encounter a job that's absolutely massive. It could be a hoarding job. It could be like Junksmith. Sean with Junksmith in Huntington Beach just got a big office clean out. I've fallen out over 400 cubic yards of material. Actually, it was close to 450. It could be a big construction site cleanup. Those are a little rare. They're normally going to be in homes. It could be a farm cleanup. So we're doing a job Saturday. We're starting a job on Saturday in a area, Siler City, North Carolina. It's kind of a farm community. It's very rural. It's growing a bit more now, but I mean it's still majority farms. Case, we're clearing out a home that was built in 1801. Hasn't been occupied in about 40 years. About 1980 was the last time anybody actually lived in the house. It's got a full barn with all kinds of heavy farm equipment, machinery that they won't haul off. Some of that stuff will get recycled or auctioned off. Some of it's junked. And then throughout the property, generally in farm communities, people just drag stuff out into the woods. Some of the stuff was probably accumulated over 100 years or 120 years. It was taken out into the woods. Just the families that lived there over the years got rid of the stuff in the woods. Well, we're supposed to clean that up because she's actually selling that property, and there's going to be a development's going to go in, and they want all that stuff gone before the development goes through. We might potentially be tearing down the old house and barn as well. So the way that we handle that is, one, we get out there, take a look at the entire job. We do try and have the truck on site where we can at least get started with one load. So we go out there, we look at the job, we get a firm price, we go and we provide that to her. Now, when you first encounter these jobs, you're probably going to be just overwhelmed because the massiveness of it is unreal. When you're used to doing 1 or 2 truckload jobs, half load jobs, so on and so forth, you can't imagine when you encounter a job that's 10 loads, 20 loads plus on how do you quote it. You get overwhelmed. Here's the first thing. You don't want to look at the job as a whole. That's like if you set goals. If you set financial goals or whatever like that, or if you want to achieve a certain level of size with your business, you're not going to want to set calls for or set, you set large goals, but you don't want to look at the little stuff you have to acquire in the middle. You don't want to look at the thing as a whole. You want to look at the little things you do have to accomplish. So what you do on these big jobs, you break it down into small loads. So you look around, and if you think it's 20 or 30 loads, whatever, you just break it down into smaller jobs. So you just look into different areas, and you say, all right, this is a load, this is a load, this is a load, this is a load. Do not get overwhelmed at all. Break it down into smaller jobs, and you'll find you'll be able to be successful with those larger pickups and quoting that. The other thing when you are quoting these jobs, stuff is going to be there that you would never, as you unload stuff, you're going to encounter more stuff that you never saw before. So you need to cabinets, that's very common. The bathtub, sometimes people put stuff in bathtubs, underneath cabinets, underneath sinks. Closets can add up big time. So you need to try and access everything possible. Even if you have to move stuff out of the way to access all those crevices, you need to look. If they want you to clear out an entire home, don't forget about that pull down attic. So pull down the hideaway staircase, peek up in that attic. One, make sure it's safe for you to be up there, that the floor is not going to cave in. But almost all the time in a whole home cleanup, there's going to be a lot of stuff in the attic. Then you might want to ask about crawl space areas. You go around to the crawl space, you take a look at that. You want to take your time on this estimate to make sure you've seen everything. Break it down into smaller jobs like I talked about. Generally what I would do is I'd have a clipboard, and I'd just come along. I'd say 1 load, 2 load, 3 load, 4 load, 5 load. And I'd work my way up. If you have a team member there, have them take a video of it. Have them take pictures and video, everything that you possibly can as you go throughout this property. Once you've figured out the entire load size, then you've got a couple ways of going about this. One, you can try and get the job right then and there, and sometimes on these really large jobs you'll be unable to do that. So an 8 or 10 plus load job, there might be an estimate beforehand. Maybe you do 1 load and then you come back and do the rest. So you can if that's the case, and it's on the smaller end of the large jobs, which the smaller end of the large jobs would be 6, 7, 8 loads. Provide them your regular load rate, full load, and you might need to add in a little bit extra. Sometimes people want to actually discount the price for a really large job. You don't do that. These jobs are more work generally. So if it's a whole home clean out, there's going to be bagging. There's small items that you got to load. There's cabinets and drawers you have to empty out. That takes a lot of time. If you're going to use trash bags, it takes up trash bags. Even if you're not going to use trash bags, our recommended route is actually take a trash can, fill it up, take the trash can out of the truck and dump it. That saves the cost of the bags. That still takes a lot more time. So you actually will attempt to charge extra on these jobs, something like 20% extra, if at all possible, for an additional labor amount. Obviously, you can always come down if needed, but go after the 20% extra first in order to maximize profit in your job. The other way to go about it, we'll get to everybody. We got questions? Okay, we'll get to some questions. If you guys have questions, but make sure to post them. We'll get to them soon. The other way to handle these large jobs and these estimates is to actually, if it's a super large job, like when Sean looked at this job he just finished, we figured this thing was 50 truckloads, somewhere between 40 to 50. I said 55. Sean said 40 to 50. Christian said 50. We all looked at, we were able to look at video and that we could create, and Sean was on site and he came up with 40 to 50. So we're all in the general ballpark. That's a huge job. So what you want to run into with really large jobs is opportunity cost. It's what am I going to miss out on by doing this job? Am I going to miss out on other residential jobs that might be less profit in the short term, but over the long term, those residential jobs can add up actually to a lot more profit than what I'm going to make on this one job potentially. But you don't want to turn any of it down, so how do you do it all? You come back, you've got your load size. So you do your load size on your truck, and then you're going to determine the cubic yards that you have. And you're going to determine how many 30 or 40 yard dumpsters you need. And then you're going to call up a dumpster rental company and talk to them about the job that you need done. And you're going to try a couple different companies out there. You're going to figure out what their rates are, how much weight they include, what their extra, if you go over that weight limit, what their extra on tonnage is. And then at that point, you're going to start breaking down all of your costs. You're going to figure out what are your disposal fees. And then as far as labor, one of the things we want to talk about is not having opportunity cost, or not missing out on residential jobs. That's your opportunity cost on these jobs. So you also need to look into temporary labor agencies. And I'd staff up and get more people than you might really need. If it's a really large job, if it's 20 loads or even 10 loads, 20 loads, 40 loads, 50 loads, whatever, then you want to get as many people as you can get at a given time where you're not going to be stepping on each other. So if it's in a house, if somebody manages to get 20 loads of stuff in a house, that would have to be a really large house or an extremely really, really bad hoarder. If it's in tight confines, or if there's one elevator, if all this stuff is on an elevator and there's only one elevator in the whole building, you're not going to be able to get as many people. But in the case of Sean, with Junksmiths, his large job was in they brought most of the stuff out into like a parking garage, and then a single level story in the building where you weren't waiting on an elevator. It was it was opened up. It wasn't a small confined area. So we weren't really worried about people stepping on each other and lowering the efficiency and increasing the amount of labor hours that you'd have because you were having to wait on somebody else to do work. The stuff is spread out so everybody could kind of tackle it from different angles. So in this case, he got 6 guys. We estimated the job to take 7 days. It wound up taking 5. We actually figured it was going to take 6. We had an extra day for a buffer. So what I'm talking about there is a buffer. When you figure all these expenses, work in a buffer. Because if you do not work in a buffer, you're at the mercy of something, a mistake occurring, or something unfortunate happening, something unexpected. Those jobs, expect the unexpected in those jobs because they're for sure going to happen. So don't cut your numbers too close, guys. Add in a buffer. If you think it's going to take 10 30-yard containers, add in another 1 or 2. If you think it's going to take 5 days, add in another day. So on and so forth. So you really, really, really are covered. On these jobs can really make your week, but they can also break it. So I'd rather be too high on the job cost and lose the job than be too low and lose my ass. So you got to be really, really careful in these large jobs that you're going through and figuring all of your expenses. So once you have your expenses figured, you're going to bring in your desired profit. We talked about that before, how you divide your expenses by 1.4 to get your desired profit. Actually, it's the margin you need. You're going to figure if your expenses are 40%, then if you want 40% profit, you'd actually divide it by 1.6 to get you the amount you need to charge. So we've covered that in a past episode. I won't really go into that too much right now. If you have any questions on that, refer back a couple weeks ago. I think it was last week or the week before we actually covered that. So on this job on billing, you want to make sure that people wind up paying. So if it's a commercial company, if it's somebody that you trust a bit more than a residential client or hoarder, what we generally recommend is collect 25% up front before you even start. That's like a mobilization fee, 25% up front. You're going to do another 25% halfway. So halfway through, you're completely covered. Then the way we generally do it is we have the final amount due upon completion, or maybe in that 15 days if they want to pay out on 15. We're going to try and get that final amount due upon completion, though. You don't want this huge job, where you're sitting there and you're trying to collect the money, because you got a lot of expenses going out as you do this thing. You got to pay dumpsters, you got to pay labor, so on and so forth. Now, on your dumpsters and your labor, you want to try and either put that on a credit card or have them invoice you. That way, you're not having to pay those expenses before your company pays you, your customer pays you. So that's another thing to really keep in mind. All of this that I'm covering right here is you've got to think about your opportunity cost. Don't ever get a large job and say, I'm going to turn off all advertising. I'm not going to accept other jobs because I want to knock out this large job. You're missing out on current profits in business, so you're basically cutting your profit down by whatever you'd have profited on those other jobs from this big job. And then you're also missing out on repeat business, referral business, and online reviews. So this large job right here, you could do one customer. This large job might take an entire week. In that entire week, you might have had 20 other customers, 30 other customers. The lifetime value of those 30 customers is most likely going to far exceed the amount of money that you're going to make off of this one large job. Always, always, always think of your opportunity cost.
So we've got a question coming in here from Kiff's Landscaping, and Kiff's Landscaping asks, how do you run Facebook ads for junk removal, and do they work for you?
Yeah, so Facebook is part branding. So, and actually, Aaron, let's see if we can get this cast to work, and I'll show. Awesome. So I'm going to show you a commercial we just did. All right, so a lot of you guys have probably seen the Facebook commercial we did for Junk Doctors. We're now able to rebrand this commercial to any other company. So this is footage we took using Junk Doctors, and we actually created it for Junk Smiths. We were just talking about in Huntington Beach. Actually, this is going to be unlisted, so let me pull up the link here. Bear with me one moment, guys. If you have the remote, turn that down a little, because I know it's going to be loud as hell. So this commercial right here, this is our Mr. Junk campaign, and I'll have it up on the screen in just one moment. It I mean, this is a commercial that we put a tremendous amount of time into developing and editing it. It's a professional commercial that we ran. It had 40,000. When we ran it for Junk Doctors, it had about 40,000 views in a week. It for Junk Smiths, we have not debuted it yet. So there's a complete launch strategy that we do, and then we're going to talk about the squeeze strategy we do to get people's information, because Facebook's very much branding. It's very unlikely that somebody's going to see your advertisement at a given time and be ready to purchase junk removal. Instead, what you want to do is you want them to remember who you are, see you consistently, and you'd like to get their information where you can send them emails off as well. So you include an entire campaign. You don't want just an image. You want a whole campaign for Facebook. Bear with me one moment while I get this cast to work correctly. Let's see if this is going to work. Here, I'm having a little issues with this thing playing, I think. It's not liking the YouTube, I don't think, the app on this Chrome. I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to disconnect from this. I'll flip around my TV screen, my computer, and we'll just make do. Sometimes things don't go like they need to. You got to improvise. This is a good example of that. Okay, get my volume up. All right, how's that look on that screen here?
Not terrible. If you can,
you need to bring
it forward a little bit and turn it. Yep.
How's that?
It's not bad. I'm going to change the focus real quick here, guys. All right.
Ready?
That's good enough.
Let's do it.
I'm your old tube TV. You haven't used me since 2005. Now I'm up here with your third grade art projects. They suck. Let's face it, I'm in the way. This isn't working for either of us. But if you call Junk Smiths, they'll be out within 24 hours to take me off your hands. They'll get me out no matter where I'm hiding. They'll load me up and take me where I belong.
So give us a call today.
And get rid of me for good?
Okay, so that was a commercial that Aaron created originally for Junk Doctors. We then rebranded it for Junk Smiths. Our video genius Aaron behind the camera back there, we created this commercial completely 100% in-house. We are including this in on some of our SEO and ads campaigns depending on your particular market and situation. You can actually purchase that separately. But here's the key, the question you asked me. If you got any questions on using these commercials, guys, we're coming up with dozens of them. Over time, we will have a selection aimed at different targets. If you want to go after people that are looking to buy 1-800-GOT-JUNK, we'll have a campaign to go after the franchises. If you want to go after potential hoarders, that might not be as much, but different income levels, male, female, if they're interested in golf, we'll have a golf-related commercial. These are all commercials that we're going to develop. They cost us about $10,000 each to develop these things. And we are going to develop a multitude of options and make them available for junk removal companies throughout the country. Email me at lee@junkra.com if you're interested in this. This is a brand new program we're just getting going on. And it also includes an entire campaign. So here's what's important. When you do these Facebook commercials and these Facebook ads, you do not want just to have a simple ad that leads to your webpage. What you want is a way that create an entire campaign that will also hopefully get, this thing has just jacked my screen. You also want to create an entire campaign that's hopefully going to gather email information. So here's what we do. After they click on an ad, a Facebook ad with the Mr. Junk campaign, they're going to be brought to a landing page. That is, it would be your company's landing page if you're using us for it. On that page, there's going to be Mr. Junk. There'll be a video of Mr. Junk in there talking about something and kind of explaining how this works. And they're going to have the option to enter in their email address to get a coupon. We're going to do $50 off. You can do 10% off. You can do $20 off, $100 off, whatever you'd like. Whatever your coupon offering is, you'd have on there. That way you get their email address. It gets entered into MailChimp. We're using MailChimp or some sort of email campaign where they then send out consistent emails twice a month. That's probably good for junk removal. So again, you stay top of mind. And you continue running this commercial, this Facebook commercial, so your potential customers consistently see it. The other thing we're doing is if they put in a mailing address, then they're going to be first thing they're going to get is they're going to get a refrigerator magnet with Sexy Mr. Junk on it with your company's information as well as your company's logo as well as contact information. You're then going to get entered into a chance to win up to 1 full truckload of junk removal. And guys, you can choose to do that as often or as little as you want. So you can do it once a month. We might do it once a month, or we might do it once a quarter. Or if you want to, you can do it once a year, once every 6 months, whatever you wanted. That's your choice on the schedule or the intervals that you choose to give away free truckloads. What we then would suggest is when you give away the free truckload, you make that a whole event. You bring out a camera crew, you record the entire event, and then you use that to in turn get more customers, get more Facebook feedback, so on and so forth. One thing you'll always hear me talking about, the key to business, the key to advertising, you got to be 100% commit, and you got to do it better than everybody else. So what I'm telling you we're doing right now, we're making available to you. If one of my competitors wants to try and beat me on that, it ain't gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. By the time they catch up to us, we're gonna be 10 miles farther along. You always got to stay ahead of the game the entire time if you're gonna make this work. You got to stand out. You got to have something where somebody remembers you, and you're gonna make this work. If you have just a picture of your truck in a Facebook advertisement, you're wasting your money. You look like a damn idiot compared to what we've got and we're putting out in the level of professionalism. No, everybody's going to forget about you. You're a pipsqueak. But if you come out and you have a full-on campaign, then that's when you're going to be able to control the market, get attention, and get customers. One other thing I will add, with Facebook, we don't expect, when we put these things out, we don't expect a huge amount of customers at first. It's going to be a month down the line, 2 months down the line, 3 months down the line. So here's how you handle paid ads with Facebook. You start out at a lower amount, $15, $10 a day, $20 a day. We start out at $100 a day. That's a low amount for us. So we start out at $100 a day. And then what we do is once the results start coming in and we start seeing business, then that's when we begin to up that budget for that paid ad campaign. If you start out at $10 a day, you get to the point where stuff starts coming in, you begin to up that budget. And then you track your customer acquisition cost. If your customer acquisition cost is where it needs to be, is looking good, you keep on raising your spending until all of a sudden that starts to curve off. Then you kind of hold at that level and you still watch and see. Because eventually it's going to start to drop off in that particular campaign. It's time to roll in another campaign at that point. And that's what's nice when you're working with a company like us. We're actively creating some campaigns, one of which is going to involve an explosion here enough. I can't give too many details on that because we're going to try and make like the Ellen DeGeneres show or something like that. It's going to be freaking insane. We will make that campaign eventually available once it really has called on and we've run as far as we can with it on organic results. So again, guys, start out small with it, but go big as far as your advertisement. Use something professional. Use something that's going to get people's attention. If it pisses somebody off, don't worry about it. I go back to this last election. Donald Trump basically won this last election. Whether you agree with him or not, Trump won this last election because he figured out who his base was. He figured out who his customers were, and he marketed 100% to them, and he gave pretty much a gigantic middle finger to everybody else. Won the election. Hillary didn't do that. Hillary tried to be too many things to too many people, and she didn't win the election. Just didn't run a very good campaign. Whereas he went to his base, and he forgot about the people that were never going to vote for him. Yeah, they got more pissed off at him. It didn't really matter. They weren't going to buy from him. They weren't going to vote for him anyway. This type of commercial, there's going to be some people that it irritates. That it's too racy for them. Whatever, it makes them mad. Hey, they're talking about you. If they're talking about you, then you're doing it right. Any other questions?
Yeah, we've got a question coming in from Jonathan Schaefer on Facebook. So as a new business, I understand that advertising is a must. What platform do you feel gets your best ROI?
So, we definitely track ROI. That's really important. One of the things we look at is customer acquisition cost, and that's what we really, really track. So what you want to start out with is the platforms that are the lowest of acquisition cost, and then work your way up, assuming that gives you a customer that you really, really want. For example, Craigslist. Craigslist is going to give you an El Cheapo customer. It's going to be a super cheap customer, somebody not willing to pay the same prices that a Google customer would charge. So if you don't want to deal with lower price customers, you might want to stay off Craigslist. But Home Advisor works if you do Home Advisor right. It normally has a fairly low customer acquisition cost. And guys, you always hear me talking about Google Ads, but Google Ads is going to cut into your profit on that first job for sure. So I mean, Google Ads is going to, it could cost you $100 to get one Google customer potentially. It might cost you 40, could cost you 120. But a lot of times, it's going to cost you $100 to get a Google Ads customer. And that doesn't necessarily mean if you spend $500 to Google that you're going to get 5 jobs immediately. You might spend $500 to Google, and when you first start on a Google Ads campaign, you don't get a single job. And then the next 500, you might get 2 jobs. And then the next 500, you get 12. So it's all about a long-term approach to advertising. One thing I don't have, I wish I did, I don't have something that we can just tell you, if you adopt this strategy, it's going to make you profitable from day one. What I can tell you is if you take a disciplined approach and you listen to the stuff that we do, Google Ads, SEO, Home Advisor, Yelp, I hate Yelp, but Yelp, and then eventually, and one of the main things is market to your past customers through a MailChimp email campaign. Then that's when you're going to consistently build a business that over time, you could very well double revenues year over year. And then by year 3, all of a sudden, you could be making over $100,000 a year. And you could be making that amount of money with a GM or supervisor in place where you're not even having to necessarily work a tremendous amount to keep the kind of the business going. I still always encourage people to work and keep growing, because if you stop working, your business, it's going to stunt your business's growth. But if you keep working, you keep on thinking about big picture, and you have somebody to run the day-to-day, that thing's going to take off if you keep advertising. Advertising is the key to this whole thing, guys. Anybody can haul junk. Anybody can get a pickup trailer and haul junk. The key is not everybody can make people find out about your company and like you so much and believe in you so much that they actually hire you. That's the key to this business. If you do that better than everybody else, you're going to get more sales than everybody else. Okay. So let's move along. Again, we're answering Luke Harris's questions out of Illinois. I said Missouri. It's actually in Illinois. So Luke asked about hoarding jobs. How the heck do you handle a hoarding job? Because he watches the hoarding show, and he sees Got Junk go in there and remove 40 loads worth of stuff. He wants to know how you handle that. Here's the first thing I'm going to tell you is right from the very start, when you walk into that house, you got to be super professional. If you've never seen a hoarding job, or more importantly, Aaron, would you agree with this, smelled a hoarding job? He's nodding his head, yes.
Yeah.
It is a unique smell. That's all I can say about that. I mean, it's not a good smell. It's a terrible smell, and it's very, very unique. It's just a conglomeration of tons of trash that's mixed together and presented this odor that you possibly can't imagine, and your first reaction is going to be to curl your nose up or barf. And you're going to test out your gag reflex here, because when you walk into these places, you got to be super professional. You got to say, because most of the time they're going to be embarrassed. If it's the hoarder, which hopefully it isn't, they're going to be embarrassed. If it's a family member, they're going to be extremely embarrassed. So you walk right in, and they're going to be, they're going to say, I'm so sorry about this, so and so forth. Say, hey, no problem. We've seen this before. Let's see what all you have. We do these jobs all the time. Let's see what you have. We'll come up with an estimate, and we're going to help get rid of this stuff for you. You don't know, no reason to be embarrassed at all. This is a very common issue. We've encountered a lot. That right there, no matter your price, you have set yourself up to be able to charge a lot more for that particular job at that point, because you're super professional. A lot of the other companies, when they came in, they almost gagged. They were like, holy shit. They had to walk outside. When you walked in there, super professional. You act like you'd seen all this all this before, and that customer's going to feel more comfortable around you, because they're going to feel a little bit less embarrassed. That's going to give you an extreme advantage on landing this job. That's going to help remove price from the equation. So, ideally, one thing I mentioned is hopefully the hoarder is not present. Just very seldom are hoarding jobs. You do hoarding jobs where the hoarder is actually there. It is normally a family member, or the house has been condemned. It's a rental house, so on and so forth. So you're dealing with a landlord. If the hoarder is going to be there, be a professional. We recommend a professional psychiatrist be on hand. Otherwise, this job could go poorly. The hoarder could lose it. Become violent. Potentially, the main thing though they generally do is they won't let you take anything. You pick up, literally, they might have a room full of water bottles. People are going to criticize. Aaron's probably laughing at me, because if you look at my desk at any given time, I might have 6 partially open water bottles, or open but partially full. they might have a room full of these water bottles, and you go and you collect these things, and all of a sudden they start to load them up, and they're like, no, don't take those, I need those. And you're sitting here thinking, why the hell do you need water bottles? Well, you never know. If my plumbing goes out in my home, this is serious, guys. If my plumbing goes out in my home, I could pee in this water bottle rather than, the other alternative. I say this because you will go into hoarding homes. It's normally not these bottles. It's normally like gallon jugs, or like milk jugs, or large, like distilled water came in or something. Their plumbing has quit. They're afraid to bring in a repairman because of the hoarding situation. They're embarrassed by it. So they go and they buy 1 gallon things of distilled water. And they might get cases of it. They might get 12 of these things. And then the water serves 2 purposes. These jugs serve 2 purposes. One, they pour out the jugs into the bathtub so they can take a bath. Or they do a little bird bath, a little sponge bath with it. The other thing they do is they take the empty jugs of water and they pee in them. And that is extremely common in hoarding jobs. It's something we've seen quite often. The other thing you'll encounter from time to time when their plumbing is messed up is, and be on the lookout for this, is they'll use bags and actually defecate in them. So you'll have human waste piled up in these jobs. Now, listen, we're not sending people in to do that type of stuff. That needs to be handled by almost like a hazmat crew. Would come in and remove that type of stuff, and then we can in turn do the hoarding stuff, or the hoarding portion of it. A lot of times we leave that alone. We don't want the hazmat crew to come in first because the hazmat crew might do the entire job. So if we're able to leave the stuff alone and somebody else can come in later and do it, that's fine. But we'll get the rest of the house cleaned up so somebody else can then come in and take care of that portion. But that's something you're going to encounter. So you've been extremely professional. That's going to help you get the job. As far as quoting this job, again, you're going to break it down into smaller jobs, but you really, really, really need to add in a large premium for bagging, at least 20% extra on your prices. And guys, I'd be hesitant to negotiate these things down. Again, you'd rather lose the job than lose your ass. So get that job up 20%. If they want to come down a little, that's fine. If the hoarder is on site, jack the prices up another 20 or 25%. So you're looking at almost a 50% premium over your normal prices if the hoarder is on site. Why is that? Because the hoarder is going to increase the amount of time. It's probably going to double the amount of time for you to get this job done. They're also going to wind up leaving a lot of stuff. You're probably going to wind up coming back later to taking care of. Here is one other thing that I want to mention on hoarding jobs. Since the hoarder is normally not present and it is a family member, if the family member does not live with them where the stuff is partially theirs, you need to be really careful because it's possible that the hoarder is not present, is unaware of the stuff that's going on. You wind up removing all of the stuff, and all of a sudden the hoarder gets mad. They get mad at the family member, and then they go after you. And it turns out the family member was not a legal power of attorney. The problem is that family member had no right for us to haul away the stuff that the hoarder had, and unless there's a legal power of attorney. So you might want to check to make sure the individual is an actual power of attorney for cleaning up that property before you go and remove the stuff. It's ultimately up to you, but you could very well be held liable for the stuff that you removed, which can become a very, very sticky situation. Got any questions?
Yeah, so Good Karma, and I did ask for some clarification. Good Karma says, sorry to go off topically, but I'm having a problem with single item pricing. I land about 80% of the jobs when I am in front of the customer. And then Good Karma follows up and says what to do when the customer calls for treadmill removal. So I'm going to assume you're asking kind of like if your pricing is turning them off over the phone or something there. If you want to take over.
Yeah, so handling these phone calls is critical to being able to land a lot of these jobs. The single item call is the most difficult one to land because somebody's just wanting a price. They feel like you should be able to give them a price on it, and then they're going to shop around for the lowest price. So one of how you handle that call, how you handle any of these calls is, one, you need to control the call. So when somebody calls you up, we have a 4-step process at the JRA call center that we go through. Number one, we have information gathering. The second is info giving. The third is scheduling the job. The fourth is confirming the call. Under no circumstances do you get out of order. So if a customer calls you up and the first thing that they ask you is what's the price of a treadmill removal, you do not under no circumstances do you ever tell them it's $125. Because then what are they going to do? They're going to say, okay, thank you. They're going to hang up the phone. They're going to call on down the list till they work their way down to somebody that tells them it's 120 or it's 85 or it's 50, whatever the number is. They're going to price shop. If you control this call, you nail this thing, you do it right, percentages on booking these jobs are going to go way up. So here's how it works. They call up and they say, I have a treadmill I'd like removed. What is the price? I'd say, yeah, certainly. I'd be happy to get that for you. First off, what area are you in, and how soon are you looking to have us come out? And they're going to provide us with that information. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, okay, so we charge based on the amount of space your items take up in our trucks. It does include all labor, so no matter where the stuff is, we're able to actually go and get that stuff. When we get on site, we are going to provide you with a firm estimate, so you will know exactly what it's going to cost to remove that item before we start. Our minimum charge is $125, and you'll probably be somewhere around the minimum. Once we get on site, we'll confirm that with you. I know you need this done by, let's say they told me Friday. I know you need this done by Saturday. I can actually make that happen tomorrow. We could be out there sometime between 10 to 12 in the morning or 3 to 5 in the afternoon. So in this case, one thing you could exclude if you wanted to, Mike, is you could actually have not told them your minimum charge, gotten in front of them, and then you sold the job. However, we like saying the minimum because we don't want to get out there and it's going to be a $125 job and they're expecting it to be done for $25. But it depends. I mean, it depends on how busy you are. It depends if you're on the job, you don't have the expenses that we necessarily do on getting on site. So you could just tell them, hey, when I get on site, I'm going to take a look at it, depending on depending on where it's located, how heavy it is, if I need to break it down, all that kind of stuff. I can then in turn get you a firm price, and then that way you're able to sell it on site. You haven't had to give them a price over the phone. There's one thing I did right here, and we're going to cover the objection. Here's one thing I did right here. Is we always go directly from scheduling from info giving, so talking about how we price and how we operate, into scheduling. We do not pause after that info giving. If you pause after info giving, after you've given the price, then that's going to open up the opportunity. That customer at that point is thinking about pricing. I want to control their mind. I want to control where they put their focus. So I want to go directly from the info giving stage into the scheduling stage. So shift their mindset from thinking about price to thinking about scheduling. You do that, you're going to start booking a lot more jobs. Now, here's what's going to happen. Customers are going to say, okay, thank you, I'd like to call around, or they may not tell you they're going to call around. They say, okay, thank you, I'm going to think about it, I'm going to call around, whatever. And if they say that they're going to call around and check it for a few other places, say, yeah, certainly, I completely agree. You'd be a bad consumer not to. Here's what I'd like to tell you, though. Of all the fully insured junk removal companies out there, I know our pricing is right in line with them, and we're cheaper than most. And here's what I also know. Is we are fully insured. We're going to send in guys that are not going to damage your property. And if something were to happen, you're protected. We can go ahead and take care of this. We do have limited availability. You need this done by Saturday. My suggestion is let's go ahead and schedule for this time slot right now, either 10 to 12 or 3 to 5 tomorrow. For some reason, you call around, you find a lower price, you find somebody you like better than me. Hey, you just give us a call, you cancel. There's no charge for that cancellation. If you do that, if you talk about the alternatives of them going of the limited availability, and you also kind of build up that friendliness with them, a lot of times they're going to schedule rather than calling down the line. That is the single most difficult call you're going to get in junk removal, though, is that single item pickup. And you need to handle it kind of like I just talked about. Rewatch, I don't know how long I took on this, probably 4 minutes. I'd rewatch this 100 times and practice what I'm saying. Role play with your spouse, with your, if you got somebody that helps you out, your business partner, an employee, role play with them till that's second nature, and you'll start nailing those calls a lot better. Any other questions?
We had one, but it looks like you took care of it within that response, so we are good to keep moving.
Good deal. Okay, guys. All right, we don't have a whole lot more time because we do have some business package customers in town. So I need to wrap this up because they're going to be heading out in a bit. This is their last day. They've been here since Monday. They're going to be heading out this afternoon. So any last questions, please bring them on in. Let's just do last questions. What we're going to talk about on Tuesday most likely is when to dump, how to combine stuff, how to recycle stuff, recycling revenues, when to sell stuff, how to donate stuff, donation receipts in relation to taxes. That's going to be kind of some stuff we're going to cover on Tuesday, unless I'm trying to get somebody that bought a local junk removal franchise, one of the big box franchises. I'm going to see if he will be willing to come into the studio. I think he's worried that I'm going to sit here and knock his franchise. I'm not going to knock franchises. For a certain group of the population, a junk removal franchise makes 100% sense, even more so than a JRA business package. I think the JRA business package is the way to go because you get all the same great training, all the same great information without the long-term commitment, all the same great support, call center, Google Ads, SEO, ongoing consulting. You get all that in the JRA call center package, business package without the long-term commitment. But here, a franchise does offer some established branding. So there's a good chance if somebody moved from one area that had that franchise to another, that used that company before, there's a good chance they can be, they'll go with them. And then there are some other advantages because you're involved in a fairly tight knit group that all they are is junk lugger. Just gave away the company there. All they are is that particular company, that particular franchise group customers. So you're going to be really, really willing to share information. So I mean, there's some great reasons to go into a franchise. I'm hoping to get him in here to talk about his experience, why he chose a franchise instead of doing it on his own, how things have gone so far. He's been competing against us for about 2 years. And if he's watching this, I want to assure him I'm not going to knock your franchise. I'm not against franchises. I just want to give people options, and that's what we've done with JRA. Do we have any last questions? Awesome, guys. Well, hey, we're going to cut this one a bit short. We normally run long. We normally run about 15 minutes. So we're going to cut this a bit short. If you're interested in Google Ads management, search engine optimization, our call center, that's awesome. I love our call center. Or any of our other services, that ad campaign, that social media campaign, guys. If you're the first one to do that social media campaign in your market like that, you're going to become known. You're going to build up a great business. Any of our services, you can call us 919-617-1975. Check us out online at junkra.com. We have a lot of great free information and articles on junkra.com as well. And of course, join us every Tuesday and Thursday from 12 Eastern to 1 Eastern. Right here coming from you in Apex, North Carolina. This is Making Hay with JRA, and I'm Lee Godbold. We'll be back before you know it.